Good morning. Ready for another class and another lesson of math today. Today we are on lesson 135. We are going to start today trying something. I don't know if this will work well or not, but I'm going to try it. And if it fails or doesn't work well, we will not do it again. So you will need a blank piece of paper and a pencil for this exercise. Blank piece of paper and a pencil. On your piece of paper, write down numbers 1 through 47. That's a lot of numbers, but quickly get a piece of paper, go 1 through 47 as fast as you can. Numbers 1 through 47. Now, what we're using this for is normally when we start math class, we start with concept cards. We go through cards reviewing what we have learned, different math facts, and I want us to remember them. I don't want you to forget them. So we're going to go through them today. This will take a little bit of time, but that's okay. So as soon as you're finished numbering 1 through 47, we will get started very soon. I'm just going to tell you each thing that you're supposed to write down. So I will give you the question, or basically you're going to write one number down in each blank or in each line on your paper. So first of all, write the formula for converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Formula for converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Write that down in number 1. Next, write the formula for converting from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Formula for converting from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Number 3, boiling point of water, Fahrenheit. Write that in blank number 3. Boiling point of water, Fahrenheit. Number 4, normal body temperature, Celsius. Normal body temperature, Celsius. Okay, I'm going to start going more quickly. If you get lost or something does not work, it's not a big problem. Just do your best and keep your paper with your lesson. We're going to try to grade it tomorrow with your lesson. But again, if you get lost or confused, it's okay. Just do your best with it. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. So we're going a little more quickly here. We're ready for number 4. I think I already said normal body temperature Celsius is number 4. Number 5, normal body temperature Fahrenheit. Number 6, freezing point of water Celsius. Number 7, boiling point of water Celsius. Number 8, freezing point of water Fahrenheit. Keep writing these down. Number 10, freezing point of water Fahrenheit. Same thing. For some reason there was 2, but that's okay. Number 11, how many seconds are in a minute? Sorry, that's number 10. I'm not confusing you too much. How many seconds are in a minute? Number 11, how many minutes are in an hour? Number 12, how many days are in a week? Number 13, how many hours are in a day? Number 14, how many inches are in a foot? 15, how many feet are in a yard? 16, how many inches are in a yard? 17, how many days are in a leap year? 18, how many weeks are in a year? 19, how many months are in a year? 20, how many days are in a year? 21, how many centimeters are in a meter? 22, how many yards are in a mile? 23, how many fluid ounces are in a pint? 24, how many quarts are in a pint? 25, how many 24, how many fluid ounces are in a cup? 25, how many millimeters are in a meter? 26, how many ounces are in a pound? 27, how many meters are in a kilometer? 28, how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon? 29, how many feet are in a mile? 30, how many decimeters are in a meter? 31, how many millimeters are in, 31, what does milli mean? The abbreviation milli, what does that mean? Write that down for 31. 32, what does kilo mean? 33, how many pecks are in a bushel? 34, how many meters are in a decameter? 35, how many meters are in a hectometer? 36, how many years are in a score? 37, how many quarts are in a gallon? 38, how many cups are in a pint? 39, how many pounds are in a ton? 40, how many years are in a decade? 41, how many years are in a century? 42, how many years are in a millennium? 43, what does deca mean? 44, what does hecto mean? 45, what does deci mean? 46, what does centa mean? And 47, how many pints are in a quart? Okay, so now that we got that finished, just keep that paper with your math book, and we will hopefully do some grading on that paper tomorrow. I'm going to go over our divisibility rules. I have the numbers here at the top of the board that I want you to remember the rule for. So what is the divisibility rule for the number 2? The divisibility rule for the number 2 is that a number is divisible by 2 if it is an even number. The rule for 3, you can say these as soon as I point to the number. You can just say them out loud or think them or whatever. Pretend you're here, but even if you're not. For the number 3, it's divisible by 3 if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. Divisible by 4 if the last 2 digits are zeros or if the last 2 digits are divisible by 4. Divisible by 5 if the ones digit is a 0 or a 5. Divisible by 6 if it is an even number and if the sum of the digits are divisible by 3. Rule for 8. We don't have a rule for 8, I do not believe. Rule for 9. If the sum of the digits is divisible by, if the sum of the digits is divisible by 9. Rule for 10, if the ones digit is a 0. Okay, and let's go over how to divide fractions. I have 2 fractions here, 4 over 5 divided by 8/15. So how do we divide fractions? Now remember, when we divide fractions, we invert our divisor and multiply. Now remember, our divisor is not our first fraction, our divisor is the second fraction. So we're going to take 4 over 5, and we're going to go multiply by 15 over 8. So we're doing the opposite of division, and we are inverting our fraction. 4 over 5 times 15 over 8. Opposite of division, invert the fraction. Okay, so invert your fraction and multiply. Now we can multiply. First of all, we can cancel. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 15 3 times. We can cancel here as well. 4 goes into 4 one time, and 4 goes into 8 2 times. Now we can multiply. We get 3 over 2, and we can also make our improper fraction a mixed number. So that will be 1 and 1/2. Yesterday, we had an introduction to geometry. We talked about that we have been doing different types of mathematics. We've done a lot of arithmetic, 6 times 4, 3 times 2. We've done some algebra, n plus 1 equals 2, and what's the value of n? And now we're getting into geometry. Now the terms that we learned for geometry yesterday, we really need to remember those as we go along. We want to know them well for the future. So turn back to page 241. Page 241 from yesterday. Let's go over the different terms that we learned about yesterday. And look also at the pictures of the different line segments and rays and angles that they show in your book. So we're just kind of going to do a review / study of these together right now. So page 241, look in the box, and we're going to start at fact number 2. So we have a point. Remember, a point is represented by a simple dot. Number 3, a line segment. It shows a line segment there. A line segment is when you have a group of points having 2 endpoints. When you have 2 line segments of the same length, that they're called congruent. A line that it shows there has 2 arrows on the end. A line is when you have a group of points with no endpoints, which means that your line extends indefinitely both directions. There's arrows on both ends. The line goes indefinitely in both directions. Next, we have a ray. A ray is a group of points having 1 endpoint, and then the other side extends indefinitely in the other direction. So pretty much it's a simple line with an arrow. The arrow side goes on indefinitely, and the other side has an endpoint. Next, we have an angle. An angle is when we have 2 rays together and they share a common endpoint. Look at the picture of the angle that they give you. Now, what is the common endpoint called that they share? And that is called the vertex, okay? So when you have 2 rays together that make an angle, the point where they come together is called the vertex. Next, we have intersecting lines. Now, remember, intersecting lines are when lines cross over each other at some point. Like intersection, it's the point of intersection where they cross over each other. So those are called intersecting lines. Then we have perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are lines that form 4 right angles. And what was a right angle? Remember, a right angle is when you have something that could form the corner of a square. Sometimes we represent a right angle by drawing a little box. So as you can see, if we would have this is not a right angle because you cannot make a square out of this. But this is a right angle because you can make a square out of this. So you can demonstrate that by writing a little box there. So there we have perpendicular lines where there are 4 right angles. Parallel lines are lines that never intersect. There are 2 lines running the same way, just right beside each other. And then a plane is a smooth, flat surface that goes on indefinitely in all directions. If there are any of those that you do not remember clearly, take a little bit of time after class to look over those so that you know those for the future lessons. Today we are working with geometric shapes. As you can see, I have some shapes here on the board. First of all, we have a few different terms we're going to be learning. The first thing is a simple closed figure. A simple closed figure. A simple closed figure is a figure that does not have a point of intersection. These are simple closed figures, and as we talked about before, intersection is when lines cross each other. This is the point of intersection. Now, are the lines crossing each other in any of these figures? No, they are not. So these are called simple closed figures because they have no point of intersection. Similar figures. You know what the word similar means? It means that they are very much alike. Similar figures are the same shape, but they're not necessarily the same size. Similar figures look a lot alike, like I just said, but they do not have to be the same size. They're not exactly the same, but they do have similarities. Congruent figures are when we have two figures of the same shape that are also the same size. So these two figures down here are congruent figures. Next, we have a polygon. Now, a polygon is pretty much the same thing as a simple closed figure, but a polygon is a name we're going to be using for a number of shapes. So what a polygon is a simple closed figure, like we just talked about, made up of line segments. So we learned that line segments is when we have a group of points that have two endpoints. They do not go on forever, they do have endpoints. So polygons are simple closed figures made of line segments. So basically, if you just draw different line segments and they don't cross each other, that is a polygon, okay? So simple closed figures, no intersecting lines. Similar figures, a lot the same, but not perfectly the same. Congruent, perfectly the same. And polygon is a simple closed figure made of drawing lines that do not intersect each other. There are also a number of different names for shapes with different amounts of sides, and we want to learn those well also. Look at number 5. Let's just go over these together. A triangle is a polygon with 3 sides. Hopefully you know that. Probably knew that since you were fairly small. Triangle is when you have a polygon, as we just talked about, when you draw lines that do not intersect and they make a simple closed figure, that is a polygon. So a triangle is a form of a polygon and it has only 3 sides. Now a quadrilateral is a polygon with 4 sides. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral having opposite sides which are parallel. So now we're combining the different names that we have been talking about. So if we have a parallelogram, and that is a quadrilateral having opposite sides which are parallel, it means it's a shape with 4 sides, and it says opposite sides are parallel. What does that mean? Now that means parallel, remember parallel means they do not intersect each other. So this is a quadrilateral. These two opposite sides are running parallel. They're running the same way, but they do not intersect. And these two opposite sides are running parallel as well. They're running the same way, and they do not intersect. So this is a parallelogram because it has 4 sides, and the opposite sides are parallel. A rectangle is a parallelogram that has 4 right angles. We talked about right angles. Square is a rectangle having 4 congruent sides. That means they are all the same. A rhombus is a parallelogram having 4 congruent sides. So again, a parallelogram is when you have the opposite sides running parallel to each other. So a rhombus is something with 4 sides that the sides run parallel to each other. And the sides in a rhombus are congruent, so they are all the same in a rhombus. They would all be the same size. Trapezoid is a quadrilateral with 2 sides that are parallel. So not both opposite sides run parallel, just one set of them. Pentagon has 5 sides. A hexagon has 6 sides. A heptagon is a polygon with 7 sides. An octagon has 8 sides. And the points where the sides of polygons meet are called vertexes, same as when you have a ray, where the two rays, when you have an angle, where the 2 rays meet is called a vertex. Same thing on a polygon, where the sides of the polygon meet, like here, 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 and here are all called vertexes. Now, when two opposite vertexes are joined by a line, the line is called a diagonal. Now, a diagonal is not a side, it's just a line in the middle that is called a diagonal. So if you go from one opposite side to the other, it's called a diagonal. Now again, I want you to take a few minutes to look over these terms and learn their meaning, and try to do as much of your lesson that we learned today by memory. If you need to look at your chart, you can at sometimes, but do the best that you can without looking back, and see how many you can learn from memory. Thank you for listening. That is all I have for today. Go ahead and finish lesson 135, work carefully, and let me know if you have any questions.